Hello and welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I'm your host, Cody. We have an electric guest on to talk a great week of NFL, and I am thankful that he is on because it is our Thanksgiving episode. We have Chew Russell at Father Dynasty on Twitter. Make sure you give him a follow. He is a great follow there. He is the host of the Father Dynasty podcast, talking all things fatherhood and fantasy football. It's an incredible listen. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all those good places. Absolutely go check it out. Chew, thanks for coming on, man.
Cody, thank you for having me. This week with Thanksgiving, got my son ready to deal with some family travel and all that. But as a Panthers fan, I'm just exhausted. We got another quarterback starting, so I'm ready for a nice, easy conversation about football.
I have to ask, how do you look into your son's eyes every Sunday as a Panthers fan and be like, "Yep, we're gonna do this again"?
Well, and my wife is a Vikings fan, so I just say, just go sit next to mom. She knows what she's doing.
She had a bad Sunday last weekend as well.
She did.
So I don't know who's in the better spot here. I mean, it's obviously the Vikings, but at least you get Sam Darnold.
That's right. He got drafted in the first round one time.
Yeah, hey, not every quarterback can be Patrick Mahomes, but
that's right.
Jude, I appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk about last week's games first. We're going to hit on some contenders or pretenders. We're going to do some things we're thankful for football-wise, and then we're going to end it on games that we're looking forward to this weekend, games that we think will stink. I cannot wait for it. Let's talk about the Vikings. Your wife's team, they got smacked. And there wasn't anybody fantasy-wise who looked good. Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson actually had a bad game for once in his career. I am stunned. And Kirk Cousins put up nothing for my team. What do we think about this Vikings team? Because they're now sitting at 8-2, but they have a minus 2-point differential on the year.
Yeah, kind of looking at this game and comparing it to, I know they were coming off just one of the best games I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there's a bit of a hangover with that, and that should be no reason to say that you can't come out and play football the next week because that's what you're paid to do. But, I mean, they couldn't convert on third down, and overall, I mean, I'm worried with Cousins he was getting sacked 7 times, and on the other side of the ball, I mean, Dak was fully protected, so it was just lopsided on every level. But my biggest thing is I think this could be a get-right moment for them, where it was, they're still okay. Their division is trashed where, the next closest team is the Lions. The Lions aren't going to overtake them to win the division. So I would like to think that they can hold on to it. They can afford this loss, maybe 1 or 2 more, but I still think if they end up with, say, 13 wins, 14 wins, they got the division, they're in the playoffs, and they're good to go.
Yeah, I think the big thing is home field advantage is going to be the Vikings and Minnesota is a tough place to play. You get the skull chants and everything. That stadium gets absolutely electric. That being said, I have some concerns, and it started with the offensive line because they weren't able to run the football. They weren't able to throw the ball. They were getting no time. And Micah Parsons is a menace. He's a problem. He is somebody that I wish, as a Bengals fan, that was on my football team. However, how much of this week's game was on the Vikings and how much of it was on the fact that the Cowboys are a legitimate playoff-worthy team?
Yeah, it felt like the perfect moment where you're catching the Vikings at their weakest. And, I mean, Dak really hasn't been back for that many weeks. So I feel like he's just continued to be trending up and up and up as he's gotten back. He's getting more comfortable. Tony Pollard, just about 200 all-purpose yards. They don't need Zeke. I mean, it's incredible. It's the narrative that's been built for so many years saying, yeah, but it's still Zeke's team. Pollard's okay. He's a handcuff. He's the top handcuff. No, he can do it by himself. And that's an embarrassment of riches when you have Zeke, who at this point, I think he had 2.8 yards per carry. He's a bit of a plotter at this point, but again, he could take abuse between the tackles, but Pollard is electric.
Yeah, and from a fantasy state, I'm not going to take any Zeke's yardage betting props, and I'm not super excited for him from a fantasy football standpoint. That being said, he's still startable in my mind, especially this year, right? He's going to get goal line work, and in an offense that should be in the red zone quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that'll be one thing that Elite allows to kind of lift his floor up a bit is I mean, Dallas is not going to stop giving him the ball. That's the one thing where I feel like they have the money invested in him, and no matter how good Tony Pollard does, it doesn't matter at all. Zeke will continue to get touches no matter what.
Look, Jerry Jones is not going to pay a man to not just tote the damn rock.
That's right.
He is such a... As a Bengals fan, I'm used to my owner just being completely removed from the team. Like, nobody has heard hide nor tail of Mike Brown outside of like 1 or 2 interviews a year.
Yeah.
I wonder what it's like to have an owner who is just so heavily involved with the team like Jerry Jones.
Yeah, I mean, and as long as there's at least some level of success to where it's like, if you put yourself in that spotlight and almost in front of the team at times, you then have that, the fan base is going to come after you. They're going to say, we see you enough. We hear what you're saying. We see who you're paying. Like, you're claiming to be making all these right decisions. If it goes wrong, the finger's going right at you, and you better answer for it. So it's a give and take, I suppose.
The thing is, like, what are you going to do? You can't fire the guy. He owns the team. So
that's right.
It is what it is. Yeah. Let's move on to that Monday Night Football game. 49ers, from start to finish, dominated this game. And I understand that there was no Kyler Murray. Are the 49ers a top team in the NFC, if not the top team in the NFC?
I would say a top team in the NFC.
Ooh, okay.
And they're very well-rounded. Again, they're kind of hitting their stride at the right moment in the season. They're playing against the law firm of McSorley. So, I mean, I don't know what to make of that. But again, the entire game, they handled it. I mean, this is the NFL, so it's any given Sunday or Monday in this case. And, I mean, they truly handled them and did not give them any bit of chance to win that game, to come back. So something has to be said for Jimmy G getting those 4 tutties, being told that he can't be a dynamic quarterback. I think he's doing just fine. And Kittle and Ayuk, getting the opportunities where it used to just be, it's only Debo. Christian McCaffrey, about 100 all-purpose yards. Like, I get Elijah Mitchell outrushed him in terms of, I think he had 2 more carries than he did, but they want CMC for the long haul, and he's going to be there. And as a Panthers fan, tough to see him go, but they're using him the way he should be.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is awesome from an NFL standpoint and not awesome from a fantasy football standpoint is Kyle Shanahan makes that offense so dynamic. They're able to do so many things with the running scheme and the passing game, the whole 9 yards, that they're going to exploit matchups. They're going to take advantage of all of those weapons. So you're not going to get a guy like a Cooper Kupp who is a target hog and gets every share of, the Rams touches. And you're also not going to see like a Derrick Henry workload for CMC. But everybody's going to be involved, and the chances to score are going to be there. So you said the 49ers are a team to beat in the NFC. Who is the team to beat in the NFC if it's not San Francisco?
I may just be saying this just because they're first, but I kind of don't think I am. I really still think it's the Eagles. The Cowboys are trending that way to where I already thought they were, the de facto number 2, but they are concretely the number 2 at this point. And I do think they're going to be the best challenger against the Eagles, of course, in the same division, so that makes it incredibly interesting. But I do think the Eagles hold on. Again, I know they started strong and are wavering a little bit, but it's hard for me to count out Hurts. I love him as a player, as a leader, and I really just believe that with the embarrassment of riches they have on defense, with the talent they've basically been buying over the last couple of weeks, it's older guys, but I think they're blending youth and talent with experience, and it's gonna do well for them.
Yeah, and they're getting guys, Linval Joseph and then Ndamukong Suh are the 2 guys that they've signed within the last week, but they're getting guys that have been there, have done that, have been incredibly successful in the league, but they're also getting guys at positions of need because they haven't been able to stop the run very well, and a lot of that has to do with their big nose tackle, Jordan Davis, being out. But he is going to come back at some point this year, so defensive line is one of those positions where you need depth. You need to have guys who can rotate in. With the Eagles having that, I think they are incredibly frightening. I love, if you were to look at the 49ers from 30,000 feet, I love that team. I love that team. I think they are the best team in the NFC until I see who's under center. And I just can't, at the end of the game, the Eagles trusted Jalen Hurts to go down the field to do it and to win them the damn football game, and that's exactly what he did. When you get to the playoffs, Dak Prescott, I think, can do it. Jalen Hurts, I think, can do it. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo can do it, especially when you look at the AFC and you have guys who can do it in Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Like, they can go down the field and win a game. I just don't think Jimmy G has it in him. Am I biased here, or are you leaning on my side?
I'm with you 100%. That's the one thing that can hold them back, and I kind of see it as not just because it's the coaching tree being extended to Miami, but you have guys like Jimmy G and you guys like Tua. They can be good because they're within a scheme that can work for them, but they have to make it work for them. Again, that does not diminish their talent level by any means, but they're not a Patrick Mahomes. They're not one of these guys that can take over a game necessarily. If they work within the script that they're given, it's a hell of a script. It's a Quentin Tarantino script, and if they follow it and everything goes well, they're good to go. But if not, it's tough sledding, and they can't dig out of that.
Okay, totally off topic. Favorite Quentin Tarantino movie? You brought him up. I have to know. Favorite director? I need to know. Favorite Quentin Tarantino movie?
I haven't seen it in a bit, but I remember when I watched it, it blew my mind. Django Unchained, I'd have to say. I would put that in my number 2. I think I have Inglourious Bastards at 1 because I love Inglourious Bastards. I like that.
We could go on about it all day. This isn't a movie podcast, but if it was, whoo! Love me some Quentin Tarantino. Speaking of a guy who has a look like Hollywood, but he doesn't act like Hollywood, Kliff Kingsbury. That Cardinals team stunk. And I understand you don't have your starting quarterback that you just extended on a massive money deal in Kyler. That being said, this Cardinals team does not look good. And Kliff has been there for a while now. Is Kliff Kingsbury the next coach to be let go?
I think in many respects it makes sense. Not just a knee-jerk, fan reaction to say, get this guy out of here. This offense is fumbling, not quite literally, but just, not producing the way they should, even when Kyler was in. And I think the next is Hackett. And I know that it's his first season, but I look at what Kingsbury's done, and a lot of it has been the talent that he's been given. But he has produced. I know there's been a bit of dysfunction, but, I think it was March of this year. You had Kingsbury and Keim extended through 2027. Again, the owner's a billionaire. Like, if he has to just eat a couple million, he's going to eat a couple million, and that's fine. But, I mean, with Hackett, this is a guy where within one season, he's just been given so much talent, which it's more than talent. It's about how the team plays and how the team performs. But he already had to bring someone in to help him with game management. He then just relinquished play calling duties to Kubiak. And this is his first season, and he's already being rattled so much that he's just giving up responsibility throughout the season. I'm not saying he has to be, emperor and kind of control everything, but he seems like he has no confidence about it, and it just does not look good.
If you are doing those kinds of things 11 weeks into your job, I think you are on the hot seat enough that I don't think the Broncos can't salvage this season. They can win games the rest of the way out, look competent, and I think Hackett could save his job. But, you can't salvage a season in which you were kind of all in for the most part. Outside of trading Bradley Chubb for a first-round pick, you don't have a whole hell of a lot. You sold a ton of capital to get Russ. Russ has looked awful. I don't know. I could absolutely see Hackett being gone. And the Broncos, their new ownership group, they have plenty of money. They're not worried about biting the bullet for, that dollar amount. So what's that to Walmart? You know what I mean? It is what it is. We're going to keep it in the NFC West because it is incredibly interesting out there. I don't have it on the show sheet because the show sheet I made, Darrell Henderson had not been released yet. However, he has now been waived from the Rams. I put on the show sheet, and I quote, do the Rams just call it a year? They're now getting rid of their leading rusher. What is going on in LA right now?
I'm not here to say that Darrell Henderson was the second coming of any great running back, but looking at how atrocious that backfield has been this entire season, all of them included, you have the issue with Cam Akers earlier in the season where there was just a general disagreement. He sat out but wasn't fined, so it seemed to be that the coaching staff was in on him not playing either. He wasn't traded. They have Kyron Williams coming back, a guy who I was pretty high on coming out with his rookie year this year.
Hey, Notre Dame, go Irish.
Yeah, buddy. And I don't get it. I understand, there could be the slump with, having such success last year coming over to this year, but there was not enough turnover on that team for all this to be happening, with Darrell Henderson now being released. I don't get it. I mean, at this point, why wouldn't you keep him? Like, what are you gaining from letting him go?
The hit's already on the cap, and when you're looking at the running backs who are on that roster, like, you have Cam Akers, you have Kyron Williams, and then I don't know who else is on that roster, if they have any practice squad guys that they're willing to bring up, but I don't think they have any, like, sort of young depth piece that they want to get a bunch of touches.
Yeah.
And you could have just done that and taken some touches away from Darrell Henderson while still having him on your roster. To me, that's weird. Darrell Henderson was actually ecstatic about leaving. He tweeted a couple of smiley face and like the prayer hands emoji. So it looks like this was a mutual parting of ways, but still a really weird scenario, the whole 9 yards. Can the Rams salvage this year at all, or are they done? They're
done. So, I mean, with a lot of, after they won the Super Bowl, a lot of the talk of, hey, is McVay going to walk away? Hey, is Donald going to walk away? It's like, I know you want to go out on top, but like, you don't go out on top, and then this is what happens. I mean, they only have so much time that they're going to actually be able to compete with some of those pieces with how expensive it is, how they keep trading away picks. Like next year, I think they have the second, a third, don't have their fourth, and they have not their own fifth and sixth or something like that.
Yeah,
it looks rough.
Yeah, something that the Rams, they were so top heavy, right? They were very high end talent, a lot of, big name players on that roster. But what happens when you have all that high end talent and not a whole hell of a lot of depth is injuries can absolutely decimate you. I don't think Matt Ryan has been himself. But again, I don't think the Rams at any point through this 11 weeks have started the same 5 offensive linemen in consecutive games. It's been a hodgepodge offensive line, and we know how important that is. And as a Bengals fan, I know how important a bad offensive line can be. And then you have Kupp getting hurt now. They're injured on defense. It's a mess. But from you're a fantasy guy, Darrell Henderson, where do you want him to end up, and where do you think he ends up?
So this was an interesting one. So I kind of not liking it in terms of his abilities, but when Eno was released, I know he ended up being claimed by the Texans. They also claimed Amari Rodgers for some reason. But Darrell Henderson feels like he should go to the Chargers. The Chargers have been perpetually looking for who can spell Eckler. They haven't been able to find it since Melvin Gordon left. And I think that Henderson could be a great guy for that, not because, again, he's an incredible player, but they've tried to draft guys. They've tried to sign some people. It just hasn't worked. And I think Henderson could truly be an upgrade for them. And they're a team who I do hope they snag one of the last wildcard spots. I don't think they're going to do it. They get the injury bug bites them every single year.
The Chargers just Chargers every year.
That's unbelievable. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe the Chiefs, but I kind of doubt that. So what do you think?
I actually love that. Like, from a fit standpoint, I think that makes a whole hell of a lot of sense to give Austin Eckler that backup, if you need to get some touches away from him, would be a really fun signing. Good for Darrell Henderson. He won't have to, change apartments or anything. He gets to stay in L.A. I'm interested in the Broncos as well. Because Henderson is a young guy. He's still on his rookie deal. And obviously some other news today is Melvin Gordon is out. It has been waived from that roster. So I think they might be looking for a running back. Obviously Javonte Williams is their guy long term. But surely they're not just going to stick with Latavius Murray the rest of the year?
I hope not. I mean, I think at this point, because Chase Edmonds, I believe, was also put on the IR today. So at this point, it's only Latavius Murray, and I think Marlon Mack is sleeping on a bench somewhere. So
Marlon Mack is just what a journeyman that guy's been.
Yeah, he seemed to be the poster child for the Achilles recovery, but then it's just like he's been on like 5 different teams at this point. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. If you have either of these two guys that have been cut, Melvin Gordon or Darrell Henderson, are you going to keep them on your bench? Because you probably weren't starting them anyway, or at least I hope not. If you were, your team probably is not doing very well. Are you willing to cut your ties and say, we'll see ya? Or how are you treating them from a redraft standpoint?
From redraft, I probably would let him go. I really don't think, wherever they sign on to, again, even if it's, a great fit and it makes a lot of sense, I mean, at best, they're going to be on the back end of a committee. And even if it's a very good committee, probably all of those very good committees already exist, and they're not going to be signing either of those guys. So,
Yep. That's a fair point. That's all we've got for the recap. So we're going to move on to a new segment. We're going to do some contenders and pretenders. I'm going to rattle off some teams to you, Chew, and I want to know, are they contenders or are they pretenders? And we got to start with America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Are the Dallas Cowboys contenders or pretenders?
Absolute contenders. You got Dak rolling, you got Pollard in there. The defense is just absolutely stacked. Again, I don't think they're going to overtake the Eagles for the division, but they got that first wild card spot, and they're going to be a hell of a wild card team.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see who they end up playing, because if they could play, I'm thinking division-wise, the NFC South is probably going to have the worst division out of that, so they could end up playing Tom Brady. Would be a hell of a first-round matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried about Mike McCarthy at all? Because I just see him on the sidelines, and I think about that story where he smashed a watermelon, and I just can't take him seriously. Are we worried about him, or do we think, hey, he's done it before, he has won a Super Bowl, he can do it again?
I would like to think, I definitely understand that fear there. I would like to think that he'll get out of his own way and kind of let the team kind of do their thing. You do have a great staff there, it seems to be, and you have a lot of talent that has also been there for a couple of years, even some of the younger guys, maybe not necessarily their rookie year, so not in the deeper playoff pushes, but they've been there, they've played together, and again, health and momentum is the biggest thing to have going into end of the season, into the playoffs, and they seem to have both of those right now, so I contender all the way.
Not to keep harping on America's team, because I can't stand the Cowboys, but OBJ has been talked about between the Cowboys and the Giants, and we'll talk about the Giants. But do you think there's a shot that he ends up in Dallas?
Maybe. I think as the can kept getting kicked further down the road with OBJ saying, I'm not signing yet, I'll sign then after Thanksgiving. I mean, this guy's just waiting for, when can I pick a team and I feel like this is the team that will be in the Super Bowl? I mean, and again, at this point, he's a mercenary at this point. Like, he's signing 1-year deals like Deshaun Jackson until the rest of his career is over. Like, that's it. So I get it.
And honestly, I think he should. Like, he's not. Health has held him back in recent years, and especially like tearing your ACL as late as he did. I totally understand doing it for this year, but put yourself in a good situation. He's made his money, and he is going to have any endorsement deal that he wants as long as he's playing football, because he is Odell Beckham Jr. and he's got the persona. Why not just go play for good teams? And I understand that, like, it's ring chasing, but if you're a major contributor like Odell Beckham Jr. is when he's healthy, I'm fine with that. And it's so hard to ring chase in football because it's so hard to have continued success in football. So I'm okay with OBJ doing it. I just, like, as a Bengals fan, I know he's not going to end up on my team. I just hope he doesn't end up with, like, Baltimore, because I would hate every ounce of that, because they're already, like, I can't not root for Lamar Jackson because he's so fun. But division rival, it is what it is. We got to talk another team in the NFC. Your wife's Minnesota Vikings. Do you think they're contenders? Does she think they're contenders?
I'll have to ask her after this podcast. I think she would say contenders, although I think there's no way around it. Like, they got their ass beat. Like, there's no positive spin to that. Like, you can't lose by 37 and it be a good thing. Like, learning experience, like, no, they just got beat. But again, I really do think with how they're situated in that division, there's no way they're going to lose that division. And, you don't want to come in limping into the playoffs in terms of, we won our division, but it's because we're, no one else is good in the division, so we technically got into the playoffs. But I think I find it hard to believe with the weapons that they have, specifically on offense, and that defense doing better than in previous years. They have to be able to figure it out. I know primetime Cousins is basically a non-existent, untalented person for some reason, but
it's a narrative and it exists, and it's like not a false narrative.
Oh man, I hope it doesn't continue to weigh on him going into the playoffs this season, but I want it so bad. A couple years ago when it was going to be the Super Bowl in Minnesota, they completely just ruined that. I wanted them to be able to, play the Super Bowl in their hometown, their home stadium. Missed that chance, but I think they can do it this year in Arizona, I believe is the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Yep. So.
Which, talk about a sports weekend, that and the Waste Management Open, like back-to-back weekends of the same weekend. Oh, that would be awesome. Unfortunately, I am way too broke for that.
I'm with you on that one.
Hey, like and subscribe to the podcast so I can go to the Super Bowl, please.
There you go.
Damn it. I'm just trying to go. I'll take Chew with me.
There you go.
I don't think we're going to see your team, but we can root for mine.
That's right. I'll bring my Steve Smith jersey and just try to hide myself.
Hell yeah. Speaking of my team, why not? Let's do them next. The Cincinnati Bengals are 6-4. We have lost some brutal games. Lost the Ravens close at the end on a last-second field goal. Lost the Steelers because we could not make a kick, and our long snapper got hurt. And it just seems like we can't ever really figure it out. But we were in this spot last year, and we made the Super Bowl. How should I feel, Chew? Should I feel like my team are contenders? Because obviously I think they are. I mean, Joe Burrow, come on.
It really helps that last season happened because no one can say it's impossible. You can't say that. It just happened not even a year ago. And one big thing, they have Samaje Perine who can score 3 touchdowns in relief.
Yep.
So, and that's not for nothing. But also, with them not having Chase for a couple of weeks, I thought that was going to be the nail in the coffin of like, if they can't play incredible football, when Chase comes back, it won't matter. But they've done well. Higgins has stepped up. Higgins is an alpha in his own.
No.
Like it's incredible to have those two guys. So
yeah, I wake up every Sunday excited to watch football, and I can't ask for more than that.
Yeah, and I think once Chase comes back, I think that will allow Burrow. I know he had a bit of a turnover problem early in the season, and it reared its head a little bit this past week with two picks. But I think once you get both of those guys back, Boyd is an incredible compliment. Overall, I hope Mixon's not hurt for too many weeks with the concussion, I believe. So I think they're going to build some steam. I think they're going to end the season well, still end up getting a wild card, but I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, which Joe Burrow it's crazy. He has 6 or 8 interceptions on the year. 6 of them have been against Pittsburgh. Like that is, it's a good thing we're not going to see them in the playoffs. But that being said, I think as long as you have a guy like Joe Burrow, you have a shot. However, and this is going to be the realism fan in me because I went 26 years without seeing the Bengals win a playoff game. I don't think that they're contenders this year. And I think part of the reason is the injuries. And we're missing DJ Reader, our incredible 3-tech on the inside on defense. And obviously Jamar Chase being hurt certainly does not help. And if he comes back and can be 100% of Jamar Chase, I think we'll be okay. But what I'm worried about is over the next 2 weeks, we play Tennessee, we play Kansas City. Those are games where you need 100% Jamar Chase, and I don't think we're going to get 100% Jamar Chase. And after week 13, we could be sitting there with a losing record. So I'm a little concerned. Chidobe Awuzie, our starting corner, tearing his ACL, being gone for the year, obviously hurts. And when Eli Apple is your number 1 corner, Houston, you got a problem. So I'm going to say they're not contenders, but I think all the pieces are still there. They could win. They could absolutely win a playoff game, make it to the AFC Championship. Who knows? I mean, with Burrow, anything's possible. But I don't have a ton of faith. I don't. It's just I've been a Bengals fan for so long, man. I'm just so used to being disappointed. It is what it is. Well, let's talk about those New York Giants. They are one of the most confusing teams to me. I'm a gambling man, and I loved under 7.5 wins. I said I like Brian Daboll. I don't know who their receivers are, but they aren't any good. I don't think their defense was going to be worth a shit. And then here we are. They're sitting at 7 wins already, 11 weeks into the year. Do they have a shot? Are they contenders, or are they just happy to be here?
Well, this was the toughest one for me, honestly.
Really? Out of all this...
Yeah, so if we're looking at it from the standpoint of playoffs, I would say contender, because I do think they're going to get a wild card spot. But in terms of having any shot at making a run into the playoffs and, I mean, God forbid, win the Super Bowl, not a chance. I think Dable is just getting started. He has maximized any bit of talent on this team. They traded away Kadarius Toney, who, I mean, wasn't really playing anyway because his hamstring hurt too bad. And losing Wan'Dale Robinson, when that trade happened with Toney, tough. That was horrible that they had that trade. It kind of cemented that Wan'Dale is going to be their guy. Was already having a nine catch, 100-something yard game, tears his ACL. I hate to see it. I love to see Saquon getting used creatively, though. Vanilla Vic back there, being as efficient as he possibly can be. But, it's not their year. But this is, with Dable, he's going to be coach of the year. I don't know how he's not. And I think this is a good look for them for the future. This is how you can maybe make the playoffs, but not make a run and feel great about your team.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if we were to sit here and say Giants are going to have a first-round exit now, Giants fans would be disappointed. If we were to sit here in August and look a Giants fan in the eyes and say the Giants are going to have a first-round exit, they would be ecstatic that they made the playoffs.
Yep.
So I think you kind of have to take this with a grain of salt. I don't think they're contenders. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game. I'm not a believer in the Danny Dimes. I think they're going to need to get a guy at some point, and I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. But if you're a New York football fan, I mean, you got to be riding high right now. And the other New York team, the Jets. Contender, pretender. Do I have to keep Zach Wilson away from my family Thanksgiving? Go.
100% keep him away. Please do that. And pretender to the fullest extent. Not a team that I've followed a tremendous amount throughout the year, but checking in and seeing that their record was that close to the Patriots, a team that I didn't think had been doing incredibly well this year anyway, was shocking. But to watch the end of that game and to see that punt return, to watch Robert Saleh's face, just the disgust in his team, to then hear him say in the press conference after, describing his offense as dog shit, was such a cool moment, because I know every coach wants to say that, but with what he's had to go through since he's become head coach, I get why he's just so fed up. Like, it could just be lip service and he's just trying to light a fire under his team. But, I mean, Zach Wilson, when he was drafted, when they were talking like, oh, man, he could even be the first quarterback, I didn't understand it. Like, he's a small guy. I know they talk about like, oh, the arm talent, the angle, whatever. It's like, I know, but it just seems like Malik Willis, but like less turnover happy. And I don't mean mobile. I just mean in terms of how he throws the ball.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it. So, I mean, they're pretenders. They have so much talent. I'm a big Elijah Moore fan. I was sad to see how it's been going this season, but they're going to continue to crumble, and I'm glad at least one New York team's doing well.
Yeah, I think Zach Wilson is the big... Anytime we sit here and look at pro days from now on, we're going to be like, yeah, but Zach Wilson. Like, his pro day had people on their feet talking about what his Hall of Fame speech is going to say, counting, like, hey, are we going to have to put the rings on his second hand because he's playing so well? And then we realize that you play football in pads and not in shorts. So it's tough. Yeah. It's tough. Speaking of that AFC East, the New England Patriots, as it stands right now, are a playoff team. Are they contenders? Can Bill Belichick do it? Can they pull off some sort of magic, or are they frauds?
Pretenders again. It's a team where in the regular season they're going to grind it out and win some very ugly games, and it may get them to that final wild card spot. I hope not, because honestly, I think when you think of those last wild card spots, you want it to be an exciting team that you think they have a fighter's chance of winning a game, even one. And the Patriots aren't it. I mean, I understand Bill Belichick is the coach and he can do no wrong, and he's a genius, and he's better, not better without Tom Brady. That's crazy. But he's continuing to win sometimes in spite of him, and that team's just not going to do it. And I think the average NFL fan is just not going to be, they're not excited to watch that game, and I just don't see it.
Yeah, they're just not. They're not a fun team. You know what I mean? They're gonna win games. They've been winning games, and as long as Bill Belichick's their head coach, they're gonna continue to win like close, gritty dogfight games. But they're just not a fun team to watch. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. Let's move on to our holiday special, our Thanksgiving segment, if you will. These are football things that I am thankful for, that we are thankful for, Chew. I'm going to start with my number 3, or I'm going to start with my number 1. I'm going to start with my number 1. We'll keep it going from there. The thing that I am the most thankful for, football, Nirvana, my hero, my savior, Joe Burrow. As a Bengals fan, there is few things better than knowing your team can win any given Sunday. Having Joe Burrow does that. He's just so fun to watch, man. It is. Are you a believer in Joe Burrow being like, he's the guy, he's legit, he's one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL?
Joe Burrow has, to most simply put it, he has that it factor. He has the ability to produce, and he plays in a way where the team will get behind him 100% because they believe he can do anything. And he will put his life on the line. He will put his ACL on the line. He will put whatever he needs to do. And with what their team looks like right now, there's so much talent he's surrounded by. So when you get a guy that's that good at the quarterback position and you give him that many weapons, anything's possible. He's just so fun to watch. And I think he is, like, when you see him talk, if you were to watch this guy outside of football, if I were to show him to any non-football fan and ask them if he was a leader just based on his body language and what he does and how he speaks, he looks like a leader. I'm glad that he's on my football team, and I am thankful for Joe Burrow. Chew, what do you got? Who are you thankful for, or what are you thankful for from a football standpoint? Mine is probably a bit cynical. I'm thankful that Matt Rule got fired. I was calling it that he was going to get fired before Thanksgiving, and I'm like, man, is it even Halloween yet? Like, this is. I'm glad he's gone. It also partially just for the overall locker room and the culture and everything to be like, all right, we need to shift this thing back around. We need to get this on the right path. We're not going to win games this season. That's okay. Get a top 5 pick, get a quarterback, but we need Rule out of there. He's not the guy for the future. He should have been fired last season, if I'm being honest. I know we're supposed to be thankful and be nice and all that. I'm a cynic, so Matt Rule, gone.
I love it. And we saw the stats so many times during the season. It's like the Panthers under Matt Rule are like 2-20 whatever when the opposing team scores 17 points. It's like the magic number. All you have to do is score 17 to beat the Panthers. So I think Matt Rule is a really good college football coach. And I don't think he's an NFL guy. And it'll be interesting to see if he ends up at a Nebraska or whatever this offseason. But man, if I'm getting paid like tens of $millions to not work, my ass is sitting on the couch. I can tell you that much.
That's right.
For sure. My second thing on the list of football things that I am thankful for, and it's kind of as we get closer to Christmas too, it's the gift that keeps on giving. This Denver Broncos team is a walking meme. Russell Wilson is a corny dude, and if you're a fan of him, great. I'm not. I just don't think he's incredibly authentic. That being said, I love TikTok, and seeing the guy who makes the videos of like, this is an update on whether or not Russell Wilson has thrown more touchdowns than he has bathrooms in his house. And the answer is no. Like, it's hilarious. You have Melvin Gordon tweeting out a picture of him driving the OJ Bronco as he's being waved by the team. Nathaniel Hackett is talking Star Wars in his press conference on why his offense sucks so bad. It is just, it's something that I can just laugh at. And you know what? I need that around the holidays. It gets a little stressful. I am thankful that the Broncos are just fun to make fun of.
Yeah, If you would have told me that the Broncos and the Rams would both be at the bottom of their divisions at this point in the season, I would have thought it was April, and you were joking. You were saying it was April 1st, and that's what's happening. I mean, it's unbelievable. It is also very hilarious. Yeah, that Russell Wilson, he's doing high knees on the plane. Like, it's just all this nonsense.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, your lack of awareness is insane. Because then at the end interview him when he gets over to London, he's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, I didn't even sleep. Like, watch film, high knees, watch more film, ate a Danger Witch sandwich. Like, it's just, it keeps stacking up. It's so funny. Chew, who you got for your, what else you have on your football thankful list?
So mine's kind of a quirky one here. So I have Jamal Williams leading the league in rushing touchdowns. This kind of brings me back to, kind of a James Conner thing last year, but it brings me back to the LeGarrette Blount days on the Patriots. It as the season keeps going on, you don't realize you don't realize he's producing that many touchdowns, and by the end of the year, you're just like, how is this guy fantasy relevant? How is this guy taking touches, so many, away from DeAndre Swift, who conceivably is healthy now, but they're like, but Jamal Williams, he just has it. He just scores touchdowns at a ridiculous rate for a team that's just not that good. So it's one of those things, like in fantasy, you can appreciate, like, yeah, I'm starting Jamal Williams. But if someone watches the game, they're like, Jamal Williams? You mean DeAndre Swift? No, Jamal Williams.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, too, where it's like, well, the Lions' offensive line is good. I think they could have a fantasy relevant running back. And then I would sit here and go, the Lions have the league's leading running back scorer. And you're like, no, DeAndre Swift is good, but like he's not. And you're like, no, not even him. It's the anime guy that they got from the Packers for essentially free. It's crazy. He's had a hell of a year though, and he's also a guy that is just so easy to root for. Like his interviews are awesome. I love that guy.
He's an absolute character.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of characters, my third and final and probably most pinnacle football person that I am thankful for, and I think Thanksgiving may be his favorite holiday. I am thankful for Andy Reid. This man he just brings so much joy to football. When you watch that Chiefs offense, especially like against the Chargers, Sunday Night Football, you know that you are in for a treat. He is like Santa Claus coming down the chimney, bringing gifts with his creative. It's not just that he is winning games and their offense is putting up points. It's how they do it. They get so creative, and they're using Travis Kelce all over the place. And you're like, no Tyreek Hill, no problem. And he makes Patrick Mahomes look so, so good. I love Andy Reid. And he's just another guy who is incredibly easy to root for. Seems just like I would invite Andy Reid to my Thanksgiving. He seems like a hell of a time. You might have to make an extra turkey or two, but what a dude. Andy Reid is his comments just after the Super Bowl, I'm going to get a good cheeseburger. You can't beat that guy. I love Andy Reid, and I am thankful that he is the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, he will leave your Thanksgiving table with gravy still in that mustache, and you won't say a word, because that's what he wants.
Yeah, and you're just going to be like, hell yeah, I'm so glad he was there. He's the best. All right. Chew, who do you got for your number one? What are you the most thankful for your NFL football Thanksgiving?
This might be a layup here, but I'm going to say Thanksgiving football. One of my favorite matchups is to watch the Cowboys and the Giants, as my family is all from upstate New York, and they are Giants fans till they die. So I've had to deal with, them winning a couple Super Bowls in my lifetime. But I love divisional matchups in either, prime time or in notable days, notable games, front and center. And especially, again, probably the family piece of it, when I get to be with so much family, get all this New York family around, and let's just watch the Giants. And at this year, I don't know if they're going to beat the Cowboys, but it's just so much fun. I love it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too, where it's like it gives you something to talk about with your family. Maybe, I have to travel for my family Thanksgivings, and every year it's, oh, how's work? How's this? How's that? It's like, well, my job hasn't changed. Subscribe to the podcast and all that other stuff. But it's nice to be able to talk about football. And avoid the when are you having kids conversation, because when I do have kids, I'll listen to the Father Dynasty podcast, which you should go subscribe and listen to. Everybody listening to this, please. Shameless plug. I will shamelessly plug.
I have no shame.
Thanksgiving football is, I don't know who thought of this. I don't know who's the inventor of Thanksgiving football. It'd be something, a good YouTube video to make, to be honest with you. But thank you to whoever decided that was a great idea, because, Thanksgiving football is awesome. And speaking of Thanksgiving football, let's do a little rankings. Let's do some rankings. We get 3 matchups on Thanksgiving Day today. At 12:30, we have Bills at Lions. You're sitting down with your plate, you're turning the TV on, you get to watch Josh Allen decimate that awful Lions defense, and you get to watch that Lions team score points and man Campbell. We get Giants at Cowboys. You already talked about it, but an awesome division game in Jerry World. And then you get Patriots and Bill Belichick and primetime Kirk Cousins as a cherry on top of your Thanksgiving Thursday. Chew, how would you rank those games? 1, 2, 3.
You already know number 1. That's the Giants Cowboys right there. I love that it's right in the middle. I probably have time for a nap before that. If not, I might sleep through the first half. I hope. Hope not. That's not the case, but we'll see. This one was tough. So I'm going to say second, the Patriots Vikings. More so just because I want to see the Vikings get back on the right path. I think when you have such a devastating game like they did, you're always looking to see, like, it doesn't matter who they're playing next game. Can they win? I don't care if it's a trash team. Can they win? Can they get one win under their belt and keep going? And kind of similar with the Bills and Lions. I mean, the Lions are trash, but Josh Allen has his MVP hopes, I think, have been kind of dwindling as he's descending. He's not, he's asked to do so much. He's asked to be the leading rusher on his team. He's asked to just lead his team as a whole. And I think Mahomes has, exceeded him in that MVP conversation at this point. But Josh Allen, I want to see him just handedly destroy the Lions, no turnovers, ideally. And just that can be his get-right game, Even if he doesn't get that MVP by the end of the year, he can kind of, build some momentum going into the playoffs.
I love that take. I actually have these games in an entirely different order than you do. So I'm happy that we have some disparity here. My number 3, I'm going Patriots Vikings. That Patriots offense stinks. It's boring, whatever. Their defense is awesome. Matthew Judon is incredible to watch as a former defensive lineman. His teach tape is just chef's kiss. But that being said, it's going to be night. I'm going to be tired. That tryptophan be hitting. And then I have to watch primetime Kirk Cousins. I'm going to put that game at my number 3. My number 2, I'm going Giants Cowboys. Great game, impactful game, meaningful for the division. Like, from a NFL importance standpoint, this is definitely the most important game on the slate to see, who's this is big for playoffs, which if you'd have told me that this would be the most important playoff implicating game to go into this weekend slate, I would have laughed at you at the beginning of the year, but this is an important one. But I'm going to put that at 2 because number 1, 12:30, Josh Allen, you get to start the day with points. I don't know what the total is for this game. I'm betting the over. I just want to see points. I want to see Amon-Ra St. Brown. I want to see Stephon Diggs, Jamal Williams, Dawson Knox, and Devin Singletary, and Gabe Day. I want to see all the points. I want to see Josh Allen jump over a dude. I want action. I think this game is going to have a ton of it. I think it's going to be incredibly exciting. I don't have a stake in this game, but I'm going to be glued to the TV every minute. I can't wait. But we got to talk about the rest of the weekend because we can't just get bogged down with, there's more football than just on Thursday, which is, we get college football on Friday, we get college football Saturday, and then NFL Sunday. This feast week is really the best week of the year. You love sports. We get World Cup. Go USA. Not a big soccer guy. I'm just not good at it. But let's start with the game we are most looking forward to this weekend outside of that Thanksgiving slate.
You will very much appreciate this, and I actually picked this completely independent of the fact that you are a Bengals fan, but I'm excited to watch the Bengals-Titans game. And
let's go.
the Titans have a firm grasp on the AFC South. The Colts are the next closest. Kind of reminds me of the Vikings-Lions disparity in terms of, I think the Titans basically have that division locked up. So I'm less concerned, if they win or lose, not really much of a change there. But the Bengals, if they maybe don't have Mixon with a concussion, if Chase isn't quite back yet either at all or at 100%, I still want to see them win this game. I think if they can win this game, missing one or both of those guys, that would be so impactful for this team. Because the Titans are no slouches. I know they play in a trash division, but they have still won, ample games to where I think they're, a very competent team. But the Bengals are better. The Bengals are just the better team, and I think that Burrow, team on his back, minimize the turnovers. I'm really excited to see him get that team on the right path going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and this is one of those games you get that revenge factor. You get the AFC divisional round rematch. So I mean, as a Bengals fan, I'm obviously incredibly excited for that game. And hopefully we get Jamar Chase back. Should be electric. I didn't pick that game, though, because the bias. I didn't want to seem like a biased fan. I'm never biased. Why would I ever be biased towards my team? So I'm going to pick a different one. I am going Packers at Eagles at the Link, Sunday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that this Packers team is dead yet. I think that they have some fight in them. I want to see against the Eagles. And this is an Eagles team that they lost a game they shouldn't have against the Commanders. The Commanders had a phenomenal game plan. The Eagles turned the ball over. You lose. Then you kind of struggle against the Colts a little bit. Who is this Eagles team? All right, stand up at Philadelphia. I want to see that fight in you. I want to see you run up the stairs to the Rocky theme. Are you the top dogs? Because I think you have a shot to prove it this weekend if you really come in your home stadium and whoop the Packers.
I like that. And I really think that Eagles defense is going to be just a complete menace for Rodgers. I think that as long as they don't let him get any steam, I know that when Aaron Rodgers is under center, anything is possible, regardless of who his weapons are. But I want that one to be exciting, but I really want the Eagles to win that game. And I don't think it's, a bias in the sense of they're not in one. I want them to keep winning. I think they've got it. I think they've got that locked up. But I do think that is going to be a very exciting game to see what Packers team comes out. And, are the Eagles regaining their composure? Or are they going to start crumbling now? I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But with the good, we always have the bad. And I need to know, Chew, what is your game that you think will stink this weekend?
Well, much like you, I left my fandom out the door in picking the Panthers-Broncos game because I have no interest in watching this game. It's going to be atrocious. And I actually picked this game before Darnold was named the starter. And I actually put a joke in there saying the Panthers are probably at some point going to name Darnold the starter, so I had to change the verbiage on there. But, I mean, there's no win in this game. Either the Panthers win, and that changes nothing in terms of their divisional status, anything like that, despite them playing in the worst division in terms of record, with the Buccaneers leading it at 5-5. Or the Broncos win, and everyone's just going to say, it's about time. Look who's on your team. So, I mean, either way, I don't want to plan for it to be an exciting game, and whoever wins, did they really win?
Yep, I agree. And this is the lowest total game for the NFL all year. The total is 36.5. They anticipate no points. I just can't. There's nothing about this game that it's like, oh, well, I'm excited to – like, I could talk myself into watching good defense, I guess. Mm-hmm. I just don't see it. I'm trying to look now. I want to see the totals for each of the teams because 36.5. The Broncos' point total is 18.5 points. There's that stat floating around that if they had scored 18 points in every single game, or at least in regulation, they would be 9-1 or 8, whatever it is.
Oh man,
18.5 points. You take an over, you take an under.
I'm probably still going to go under, honestly.
I think this Panthers.
I don't feel like good. Yeah. That's the only good thing about the Panthers they got defense.
I think the way that would be broken is if the Broncos get a pick six. on Sam Darnold. I legitimately think if they have a defensive touchdown, that might get them over that number, but I would take under 18.
Darnold's pretty secure with the ball. I don't know about that.
Hey, we'll see.
I'm just kidding. No,
we'll see. Dude couldn't hold on to the ball at USC. But again, biased Notre Dame fan. It is what it is. My game that I think is going to stink. Bears Jets, and I understand that we have had some electric, actually exciting to watch Bears football over the last several weeks. But then Justin Fields got hurt, and we might get to see a Trevor Siemian Mike White matchup, and I don't want that anywhere near my friends and family. I want to keep them away from that game. I don't want them to think that game's on because I don't want them to have to go out and wash their eyes before they travel home to make sure that they get home safe, because that game is going to be brutal to watch. If from a fantasy standpoint, if those two quarterbacks are starting, are you comfortable in starting any player offensively from those two teams?
Maybe Montgomery. Maybe. Just because who else? But other than that, really nobody. I mean, even if I look at the Jets backfield, I'm like, all right, well, I mean, Michael Carter and James Robinson should do something. I'm assuming that one of the tight ends is going to, snag one touchdown. But, overall, you can't pick any of them confidently and say, they've got a ceiling that I'm trying to chase. It's like, no, they're going to hit the floor that you don't want.
Yeah. And even with the Jets' run defense has been pretty stout this year. So, there's just – that game is not exciting. But speaking of things that are exciting, Chew, I appreciate you coming on. We will have to do this again because you are a hell of a guest. The Father Dynasty podcast. He's at Father Dynasty on Twitter. Follow him there first and then go subscribe to his podcast on every single platform because you need to listen to it more than once. It's that good. Talking fatherhood and talking Dynasty fantasy football. There's not a whole hell of a lot that gets better than that. Chew, I appreciate you coming on, man. And be sure to like and subscribe to this show so you can always get the best content. We have college football show on Tuesdays, our NFL show on Thursdays, although you're listening to this on a Wednesday because of Thanksgiving. But I appreciate you all, and we will see you in the next one.